From multi-million-dollar cars to rides that help them execute the worst crimes possible, this is Epstein's garage. Upon entering, this garage looks like any other collection from a top 1% individual. Epstein owned a powerful V12 Mercedes-Benz S500 Guard, a rare factory armored version that could cost well over 6 figures to just spec them. It's a 5.0-liter V8 7-speed automatic gearbox. It was sold for about $133,000 after his death. And this was allegedly the car that he used for long-trip business meetings in the city. The S-Class can fit up to 5 average-sized people, but since this is Epstein we were talking about, he could probably squeeze about 7 to 9 people if he really wanted to. Next to the S-Class sat a classic Bentley Turbo R. This was handcrafted in the UK and was fitted with a luxury 6.75-liter twin-turbo V8. Currently, to buy one right now in average condition can be bought for around $12,000, but when Epstein's was up there for auction, it sold for around $195,000.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't know why anyone would pay so much for a car owned from someone like him.
Anyways though, Epstein could fit around 8 people in this car at one time.
In any normal billionaire's collection, cars like this would be it.
Elegant, rich, and extremely comfy. But as we walk deeper through the collection, things start to take a dark turn. When authorities seized Epstein's assets, they discovered he'd owned several identical black Chevrolet SUVs.
Do me a favor and just guess how many he had. 2? Maybe 3? Nope.
7 identical black SUVs, 7 5.3-liter Ecotec 3 V8s, pushing about 355 horsepower each. Enough for him to use one for each day of the week, but let's be honest, we all know what these were used for. A fleet like this was meant to carry people. Lots of them. Epstein could fit around 12 people in one vehicle, 10 to 11 people inside, and 1 or 2 sitting in the cargo area. So for the 7 vehicles he owned, he will be transporting a minimum of 56 people at one time. To add on, the price for 3 of these SUVs were later sold for around $17,500.
So we can rule out that he just bought these as an investment,
but just to transport the unimaginable. Parked behind the S-Class, Bentley, and the SUVs was a Hummer H2.
I've actually seen these in real life, and I can confirm that these vehicles are enormous.
They are so big, they are often described as a mini fortress. I'm talking about a 6.2-liter V8 that spits out nearly 400 horsepower, enough to tow several tons. It's loud, squared off, and completely out of place in his garage. This H2 just screamed for attention. The Hummer could fit 6 to 7 people, normal capacity, but to be honest with you, I doubt he used this car for any of his crimes since it's bright red and gigantic. But what I am certain of is that he used this next vehicle to distract authorities from what is hidden at the back of the garage. Epstein owned a 1969 Oldsmobile 442 convertible, a classic American muscle car from the late 60s. This car had a 400 CI-V8 which put out around 365 horsepower, and since his version was a convertible, you can imagine he had the roof down at all times and paraded across his island with multiple people in the back. Epstein could ride with around 10 to 12 people if he wanted to, 6 seated normally, 2 squeezed inside, and around 3 sitting on the back. The Epstein Island is located in Little St. James, a place so remote that bringing normal cars hardly made sense. Court documents and photos revealed golf carts and utility ATVs buzz around his estate instead of street cars. Epstein even owned a quad bike that converted into a watercraft, which was later auctioned off for $36,000.
One account notes Epstein's staff using carts for island transport.
It was a resort-like setup, winding private roads, mini vehicles, and helicopters on call. Epstein was really big on having transport to help him move around, or away from places quickly.
Okay, let's go back and keep walking down his garage.
Here we find his first true exotic car, the Ferrari F75M Maranello, a V12 GT from the early 2000s. This 2-door Ferrari packed a 5.7-liter V12 with over 500 horsepower, capable of 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds. For context, the 575M was the pinnacle of Wall Street fuck you money back in those days. We definitely know Epstein used this to flex his power to others. But to reach this island in the first place, he needed aircraft. Here is a picture of Epstein's private Boeing 727 jet, nicknamed the Lolita Express. This was a full-size airliner converted into his private flight machine.
I want to make sure that you understand the scale of this plane.
This was not a Gulfstream jet or Cessna. This was a 3-engine Boeing. It's basically an entire venue on air. The Lolita Express was famously equipped with a Bloomberg terminal so he could trade from the sky. It flew with him and his guests around the world, to New York, Miami, the Caribbean, and beyond. Epstein also kept a Gulfstream G550, a Cessna 421 light aircraft, and even a private helicopter. These were the ultimate status symbols of private travel. But more ominously, investigators noted that this Boeing was also used for those kind of parties involving, well, you know what. If he wanted to, he would be able to fit 100 to 120 people in this plane. And if you compare this to the numbers the SUVs I mentioned earlier could carry,
things start to line up.
reports suggest he chartered yachts to commute or entertain guests. Once you have completed control of the roads and skies, the only direction left is water.
Anyways, coming back to the garage.
As we turn the corner, we see his 520 horsepower red Aston Martin Vanquish S.
See, what makes me sad is I actually really like this car, but due to the owner, I can't bring myself to say anything nice about it.
And just behind it, his most precious asset, the Mercedes-Benz SLR McLaren. Epstein's ultimate supercar was a $600,000 showpiece. Under its hood, a supercharged 5.4-liter V8 pushing out 617 horsepower. Only about 2,100 of these SLR McLaren models were ever built. Even though officials say that this car wasn't listed as sold publicly, it may have been held under a different person to retain its value. But Epstein's vehicles were not just toys. As you may have noticed, they all helped him execute his crimes. The leaked files makes one thing clear, that he uses mansions, private jets, and vehicles to traffic dozens of underage victims. Witnesses and documents describe girls flown on that Boeing to the island, transferred by the same carts, cars, and even boats around his properties. In the end, each flashy ride was bright enough to cover the weight of his crime. I guess Epstein still wanted to buy a Subaru WRX. Subscribe if you want to see more videos just like these.